Okay, using the gradient layer effect to turn a sphere into, we're going to use this technique to turn a circle into a sphere in Photoshop CC. There's some essential differences between CS6, Photoshop, and Creative Cloud. So I'm going to do a demo here. I've got a foreground color of a bright red tone, shade, and then I have a background color here of a nice light tint of orange. So I'm going to leave that. And before I get started, because I ran into problems trying to change color of one circle when they were both in the same layer. So I'm going to make sure I add a new layer for every circle that I want to create. So here's my ellipse tool. I'm going to draw a circle. Okay, so here it is. I don't need this. I'm going to go to Layer, New Fill Layer, Gradient. Say OK, and just leave it. I'm not going to select a color because I'm going to work with these. Mode normal, opacity 100%. OK. And notice I have a gradient linear from bright red shade up to white or transparent. And yet, if I click on that, I can select my gradient selection of the foreground to background color. So I'm going to just say OK, or select that, and I'm actually going to eliminate, just click somewhere else on this field so I can continue with my selection. I want radial. And so what's happening is the dark is in the center, and now I want to reverse that, and now I can move that tool around. There are other ways to do it. I'm just going to say OK and leave that, and now I'm going to create a new layer. So I can do another circle in a new layer. So let's grab, let's choose some different color. We're going to do a gradation. So I'm going to choose a darker tone of orange, red orange for that color. And for this one, I'm going to choose, I'm going to push that a little bit more towards a yellow orange. And I'm going to choose a slightly grayer tone because I want this one to be back in the distance. I'm gonna, oops, I didn't mean to cancel. I meant to say okay. So let me just choose that one again. I want a little bit more color in it. Okay, and I'm gonna reverse those. Okay, so now I'm in a new layer. So I'm going to select my circle tool here, and oops, I don't want an egg. I want a circle. So I'm going to do the same thing. Layer, New Fill Layer, Gradient, and I can do the same process. And notice this is pretty light because it's transparent. I'm going to select that. See it changed this layer. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay, maybe I had to click out of that one first before getting to this one. Let's get rid of that one. So, okay, so now I've already kind of deselected it because I'm in my other other tool, my marquee tool. Now let's add another layer. Let me get rid of that layer. Now let's add this layer. Let's try this again. Okay. Okay. New Fill Layer, Gradient. Okay. And excuse me, select the color option that I want. Click here. I want to go to Radial and Reverse and move that in a similar direction. So it's like the light's coming from this direction or from this direction. And so now it's actually working. So I'm going to just say OK, and I have to click on my marquee tool. This is getting more like Illustrator, where you have to make sure you click somewhere else out of the field in order to release that. So now I've got two spheres. I can also, let's just select a few more colors here. Let's go towards the foreground again. Let's get a nice bright, okay, I'm going to go for a nice bright red, a little bit of tone in it. And then say OK for that. And for the background, I'm actually going to go the opposite. Let me just stick with the same color for the, oops, didn't want to do that. What I wanted to do is switch it out. I want a dark tone for the background, and I want red for the foreground, but I want a nice bright version of red in the foreground. So now I've got darker tone here, right? a brighter shade there. You know, I want to push this even darker. Let's just go for drama. Okay, here we go. So I've got a nice dark shade and a nice bright red. Okay, so I'm going to try that. Now let me add a new layer. Or I've got this new layer here. And I'm going to make another circle. And I'm going to just draw it. Oh, I don't want it there. And I don't want that. There we go. Okay, so what I want to do now is go to Layer, New Fill Layer, and I'm going to go for Gradient again. But this time, I'm going to say, okay, here. This time, I'm going to select it, click on this so I can see the rest, and leave it at linear. But then I'm going to move the shape around so that the angle around so that it feels like I've got some tone coming at it from this direction. That's another option. But if I definitely want to use radial, I can, you know, switch that out back to reverse. See that? Reversing it made the color transition different because of the direction of the gradient. So there are different ways to go about this. I'm just going to say OK, select on another tool, and you know, it just doesn't seem to want to let go. And even if I click somewhere else on the field, it just changes the color. So I'm not sure what the deal is. Let me get my move tool, click on that. That releases it. But the best way to do it is to just add another layer, and then and then you seem to, you know, there's kind of a release. But now I've got this gradient fill edge that seems to be still activated. I'm not sure what the deal is on that. You know, it's I guess it's okay. I guess it's working. So let's try another circle. Oops, it's not a circle. Let's try one more. Let's go from let's do a nice, okay, let's try that. All right, so let's do this over here somewhere and see what happens. And besides that, image layer, I mean gradient. Okay, see that changed that one. Why this is not activated, I'm just going to say okay and see what happens there. See, it changed it. It changed both of them. So, you know, there are some issues that, you know, just eliminate that layer, get rid of that layer, see what happens there. Delete that layer. That layer is now deleted. There are some quirky things that I haven't quite figured out with this yet. Okay, so from there, I actually want to add a layer, and then I want to do a gradient background. So I'm going to just leave those. And I'm going to show you what to do in terms of gradient. I got my gradient selected. Let's see. See, now that's really dark, but if I drag that behind my layers here, it's behind. Oh, so it's kind of creating an interesting glow. So depending on where you put it, right, if you drag it all the way down, actually I'm drawing that one up. So now I have an interesting kind of effect, and I can also play around with the opacity. So, oops, I'm in that wrong layer. I want it to be in this layer to play with the opacity, but I could play with the opacity of the other layers too if I so choose. See, we can really change it up however we like it to be. So those are some options to work with, everybody. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll continue to explore this and see if I can figure out the trick to releasing a gradient fill layer as I go.